Everyone, it's Wacky Animotive here to present you with What If Issei Became Alastor, Part 5. Let's go and get into it. Currently, Rias and her barrage are waiting for the raiding game to start. Immediately, Rias starts to contemplate on if it was a good idea to accept such a deal. She immediately thinks that she might regret it, but she also thinks that it's very much needed for this fight. After all, she doesn't want to be bounded by a riser. She doesn't want to be bounded by what the Devil Council thinks. Other Devil Kings think. After all, this isn't to save their actual species. This is more of a power gain, honestly, or more of a force power couple. That's how it's more viewed as. If they were trying to save their species, then more people would be going with each other. They wouldn't be going intermingle with other species. They'd go with each other all the time. And why are they relying on Riser and her to save them anyway? They could save them damn selves, is what Rias thinks in her head. As her barrage are just staring at her, wondering a few things in mind, wondering if they can actually save her from her doomed fate of marrying Riser if they lose. They're also wondering what she talked to the radio demon about. The main concern is if she made a deal with him. They all know how the radio demon's deals always end. Sure, you gain unimaginable power, fortune, fame, anything you desire, but it always comes with a horrible cost. The cost can be anything. That you never know when he's gonna do the actual cost either. You don't know when he's gonna come to collect. This is the reason why you don't go towards him, is what they're thinking. As Kiba's about to go ask her, immediately getting up off the sofa that he was currently sitting at, walks towards her and asks, "Hey, Rias, we really need to know. Did you accept a deal from the radio demon?" Before an answer could come out of Rias's mouth, there is a knock at the door. She immediately says, "Come in," and Sonia comes in. She immediately looks at Rias and everyone else, and she sees how Kiba had a tense atmosphere around him, same as the rest of the barrage. But immediately asked, "Hey Rias, so I believe you'll be able to take out the flaming chicken. Honestly, if anyone could, it'd definitely be you," she says with a smile as she tries to support her friend, while also believing that most likely she'll lose. She absolutely is one of her best friends, but she knows that she will lose. All of the amount of power oozing off Riser is serious. It's almost as strong as Sir Zex. Honestly, they don't even know if Sir Zex would be able to beat Riser at this point. As immediately when she said this, Rias knew that she also didn't believe that she had won, which is logical, but she also felt hurt. As she said, "Oh, of course, Sonia." As Sonia walked away, not noticing the betrayal in her eyes, as she stared towards the barrage and says, "All right, everyone ready to beat the brat of Phoenix?" Immediately, they all start pumping their fists in the air and forgetting about what Kiba was going to ask, except for Kiba. Kiba was about to ask again until all of a sudden a magic circle appeared under them. Them already knowing that it's a cue that they're already going to be launched into the raiding game. As they were being teleported into the raiding game, and Kiba was about to ask the question, right when they're teleported in, it looks exactly like Kyo again. They already know it's a fake battlefield, though. As they're in their ORC club still, and Rias is counting down towards the fight. All of a sudden, once the fight starts, and Kiba tries to continuously ask Rias questions, but she keeps on avoiding it. Once the fight starts and Grafia says that they can go, all of a sudden, every single person in Rias' barrage, except for himself, literally forfeits at the exact same time, which shocks everyone in the audience, and shocks the ORC the most, as Rias ends up gritting her teeth knowing what he's basically saying. that he could take on her entire barrage and her with just him and him alone. As this makes her quite mad, she flares up some power of destruction and immediately says for all of them to go ahead and get outside. As all of them get outside of the ORC room and they walk towards the enemy side of the base, Riser's POV changed. Riser is currently in the headmaster's office of Kyo, just sitting down, having his feet kicked up on the desk, chilling like a villain right now, as he also has a bottle of whiskey beside him while he's drinking it, thinking that he's going to win and he's going to get all the fame, the glory, and everything that he rightfully deserves as the heir of the Phoenix clan, immediately thinking that he's the strongest, as he's drinking himself into a bottomless pit, as the ORC basically storm directly into the enemy territory, go all the way into the building, and reach towards the office, and kick down the door is what Rias does. As Riser continuing to drink, as Rias shoots destruction magic towards him. All he does is merely flick his wrist, and the entire ball of destruction just obliterates. It's completely gone, and is replaced by silver flames that pop out of his hand as he flicked his wrist. Silver and gold flames engulf the destruction energy and disperse it. As everyone's shocked, especially Sir Zex, since no one's ever destroyed destructive energy like that, or at least no one that he knows of. Usually they could destroy it like that, but they couldn't match it. He completely matched and obliterated it. Didn't just completely dodge it or avoid it. No, that is amazing and terrifying at the same time, is what Sir Zex was thinking. As all that Riser did was stare at them more and continue drinking, and just looked into their eyes, as Rhea started to get angrier and angrier that she's being underestimated. She started flaring out her destruction magic in huge quantities which most people believe that she could not use, since they really never saw the Harris fight anyone well except for strays, and it was very rare that she had to fight strays or Fallen or anyone like that. As she flared all of her aura and put it into another orb of destruction and fired directly at Riser, all he did was slap the actual destruction with just his left hand, which Rias expected for the left hand to be completely gone, but no. In her shock, all he did was slap it, and it just obliterated, completely just disappeared. Rias was dumbfounded by this. She charged all of her attack and immediately started consistently rapid firing towards Riser, as all these balls of destruction, basically, energy of destruction is going towards Riser. He's still on the desk, just chilling, as the desk being's evaporated, and everything around him is. And there's a giant hole in the principal's office, and smoke is everywhere. You don't know what happened to Riser until it clears, and you see him still sitting in a chair, drinking his whiskey, while being completely unharmed by any of that. As he looks towards her and says, "Rias, you call that power? Let Riser show you what Riser's true power is." As he immediately flares up so much energy around him that it completely covers him with completely pitch black flames, with silver flames and golden flames all around him, just circling and transforming his body. His body was breaking and tearing itself repeatedly before it started to turn into a phoenix. As Riser turned into a literal phoenix, the first thing he did was shoot flames directly out of his mouth towards Kiba, which Kiba managed to dodge just narrowly, but it blew everything behind him into smithereens and ashes. While Kiba looked behind him in shock about what happened, the phoenix was directly in front of him and sliced him with its left foot, while its wings literally started shooting feathers out, which pierced Kiba in many different areas, mainly vital areas, to where he was on the ground and already out for the count. Essentially, was already removed from the raiding game, as Grafia said, Knight of Grimmery is removed. And immediately, all that Rias could do was flare up her energy and start rapid firing at him, which did absolutely nothing as he just flew through it, smacked himself directly into Rias, which crashed her halfway out of the building on the dirt ground and landed through a few trees into the forest, barely even able to lift herself up and keep herself out of consciousness before the Phoenix himself just flew directly towards her, appeared in front of her, blitzed her with a tail smack, just tail smacked her in the face so hard that the actual person who was recording the entire match had to replay it 3 separate times for the audience, which got a lot of people going, as Rias was being smacked around and brutally beaten down, as Riser would even switch back towards his normal human form, saying that she wasn't even worth it, as he grabbed her left leg, threw her directly back into the building with the rest of her barrage. While the rest of her barrage is just watching, Konica rushes towards Riser, who's still outside the building, running towards Riser, as Riser just looks at her slow speed, and immediately, just right when Konako blinks, he's already gone. She can't even find him. She looks to the sides, it looks upwards, and then looks behind her, only to see Riser with a fist already aimed towards her face. As soon as that fist connects, her entire face basically breaks. You could see where her nose was fractured, where her face was scrunched up and completely caved in almost, as she flew directly into a broken tree, breaking that tree even more and causing a crater to form in the ground, where she was literally in the Yanksha pose. And all that Riser did was walk up towards her, lift her off the ground, and says, "Looks like this little pussycat needs to be punished," he says with a smile, as a lot of people were quite literally appalled with the joke he did, as he threw her in the air and barbecued her essentially, as golden flames were launched directly into the air directly at her, barbecuing and roasting her alive as she was thrown out of the game. And as she was thrown out of the game, she was immediately rushed towards any medics that were on site. Immediately, Riser just walked towards the rest of the barrage, specifically towards Akino, and just said, "So, you're the Queen's best friend. I've heard many things about you." As he disappears from view of Akino, appears behind her, literally wraps her arm around her, grabs her by the neck and lifts her up in the air, looks towards where Rias was, which she had just gotten back up on her feet, just so you know. And as he looks towards her, he says, "How about this? I'll kill her if you don't forfeit. I'm tired of these games, so why don't you go ahead and be a good girl and forfeit for daddy?" As he said this, she immediately started to tear up a little bit. She was about to forfeit before she remembered what she said with Issei, and immediately said, "I accept the deal." As Riser thinks that she's about to surrender, and says, "That's the smart thing to do after all if you really do care for her," as Akino is screaming for her not to do it, and Rias says she accepts the deal, while in the background, behind all of the Devil Kings are in one room with Sir Zex monitoring this. Sir Zex is about to throw in the towel and tell Grafia to go ahead and remove Rias from the rating game. Issei appears from the back, behind all of them, and releases an aura and starts to laugh, and says, very well. You accepted the deal. I guess it's my time on the stage." as they see him behind them, and they literally shit themselves. Especially Sir Zex, thinking, oh no, not again. Before he could even rush towards the radio demon to try to stop what he's about to do, he disappears and reappears directly in the raiding game, right in front of Rias, and says, I guess you accepted the deal after all. I thought you said you wouldn't need it. As Rias looked towards her and says, well, I thought I wouldn't. Apparently I do. As Riser looks towards the radio demon and says, what are you doing here, radio demon? Immediately, Issei said, I came here to collect a part of my deal. Well, after I deal with you. Which, you should be aware of the negative effects of using so much power, correct? As Riser says, what do you mean? As Issei says, check your hair. As he checks his hair a little bit and notices something. A lock of his hair, which no one paid attention to, turned completely gray, and he said, wait, what is this? As he stares at his hair and sees it turn gray, as Issei says, that was a lot of power you used. Remember when I said that it would give you, that pocket watch in our deal, would give you enough power to literally be one of the strongest? But it would also give you enough power in all your lifetimes that you would never be able to achieve. It does that by compressing every single bit of potential you have throughout your entire life into one instance. That means all that power that you're doing is just burning through your lifespan. I wonder how many years you have now. Maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, or maybe you're dying in this very instance from the amount of power that you showed. As Riser started to notice that his hair started to grow gray at more of a rapid rate, as he threw Akeno towards the ground and says, you're lying. No, this can't be happening to the great Riser. As he places both of his hands in front of his face, noting that they're wrinkled. He immediately says, no, this is just a dream. This is just an awful dream. As Issei just walks towards him, very sinisterly, having evil energy radiating around him and everything turning staticky. As he walked towards Riser's not even paying attention. He slings his arm around Riser's neck and says, where happened to that smile you had before? As he puts both of his fingers around Riser's mouth and forces a smile and says, you're never fully dressed without one, he says, as his smile grows bigger and bigger, spreading across his mouth. And he says, oh, also, I never did get my, I never did get my part of the deal, now did I, Riser? As Riser said, what do you want? And also, can we make a deal to where I won't die? I don't want to die an old prune. I don't want to die like this. As Issei says, don't worry, you won't die. You'll be eternal. As Riser thinks that he's about to make another deal with the radio demon to get himself out of the situation, until all that Issei does is put his palm towards his chest and says, you'll be in eternal suffering. As Riser looks towards him and sees his sinister smile and his eyes glowing more menacing before turning pitch black and looking as like the abyss itself, as he feels an intense searing sensation in his chest as something's being pulled out. His very soul is being ripped out of his chest. He's screaming as his body's being completely mutilated and destroyed from the inside. His body's growing older and older, and his face is not as what it was before as a young man. No, his face is of an old prudely man. An old man who's seen a lot of horrifying things. As his eyes started glazing over, his skin started being all wrinkly, to the point to where you could see his teeth falling out. As when Issei pulled out his entire soul, his body just turned into a husk, and the pocket watch did its thing, as it started to make his body grow older and older until it turned to complete dust. And Issei just smiled as he has a new soul for his collection. As he puts the soul away into a part of his pocket, which is a pocket dimension he uses to torture all of his souls. Immediately says, now I've come to collect something else, as he turns towards Rias. And immediately says, now I've come to collect our part of the deal. As he walks towards her and says, the part of the deal that I'm taking from you is also your soul. As he walks towards Rias in a menacing fashion, as she's on the ground, literally staring death in the face as it's walking towards him, he immediately puts his hand over her in a terrifying manner, about to rip out her soul, before Sir Zex teleports in and says, Radio Demon, as he fires a destructive energy towards the Radio Demon. As all the Radio Demon does is just stare at the energy and it disappears, not wanting to undermine this man. As he stares towards him and says, Sir Zex, how is your dear old father? As Sir Zex says, he's been good, except for the fact he's not able to walk anymore. As Issei says, I wonder how that happened. As Sir Zex says, I know that I can't do anything towards you, but how about this? Me and you make a deal, and you leave her completely alone. As Issei looks towards him and says, a 2-for-1. I give up my deal with her, and let her go scot-free, but you'll accept her deal. Just a deal not to harm her, correct? In any physical manner or form. And immediately he says, no, in any physical, mental, or any capacity will you ever harm her. Immediately, Issei says, should I accept it? Should I accept it? As he basically is in a thinking position, before immediately having a sinister smile and saying, and before you could even hear what he's about to say, I stopped the video. And that's What If Issei Became Alastor. I hope you all enjoyed. And if you did, make sure you smash that like button and destroy that subscribe button.